It's the increased thirst, the frequent urination, the extreme hunger, unintended weight loss, irritability and other mood changes, fatigue and weakness, blurred vision, bed wetting in children who previously didn't wet the bed during the night. These are some of the symptoms of a type 1 diabetes. Hi there, my name is Nduta Wambura, and if you're new here, please go ahead and subscribe, put your notifications bell on, and let's keep growing this community. Now, it is estimated by the World Health Organization that about 1.6 million people died from diabetes in 2016. Now, to narrow down those statistics into Kenya, it is estimated that about 2.2% of people in Kenya, of the adult population rather, in Kenya is living with diabetes. That's about 500,000 people who are currently living with diabetes. And so on an everyday basis, I actually get quite a number of questions of how to manage diabetes. Is there any specific diet that you should take up? Is there any diabetic meal plan per se? Is there any special diabetic food that you should take up, and so on and so forth? So today I'm going to focus on type 1 diabetes and how to manage it. So type 1 diabetes, or previously known as the juvenile diabetes or insulin dependent diabetes, is a chronic condition in which the pancreas produces little to no insulin. And usually the insulin is actually a hormone needed to allow sugar or glucose to enter cells to produce energy. And different factors, including genetics and some viruses, may contribute to type 1 diabetes. And although type 1 diabetes usually appears during childhood or even adolescence, it can actually develop in adults. And despite a lot of research that has been done around type 1 diabetes, there is no known way to prevent it. And so prevention is usually dependent on the diet and the lifestyle changes, as well as ensuring that you're taking in the insulin required for you to be able to maintain your blood sugar level to avoid any further complications that might occur. So you might want to ask me, so who is at a risk of actually contracting type 1 diabetes? So there are certain risk factors that could lead to the type 1 diabetes, and one of them is the age. So usually type 1 diabetes would occur in two very distinct peaks in children. For instance, in children who are about 4 years of age to about 7 years of age, and the second phase is usually in children between 10 and 14 years of age. The second factor that is quite the risk factor is the geography. So it is estimated that the further you are from the equator, the higher the possibility of getting the type 1 diabetes. And also the genetics. So there are some certain genes that predispose you towards the type 1 diabetes, and the most common also factor is the family history. So if your family has a history of getting the type 1 diabetes, you are also at a risk of contracting the type 1 diabetes during your lifetime. So now, you might also want to ask me, so how will I know that I have type 1 diabetes? Like I mentioned in my previous video about pre-diabetes, you would go to a doctor and see where your blood sugar levels are at, and the doctor will tell you whether the sugar level is normal, pre-diabetic, or you are diabetic. And so you would do the very common test, which is the glycated hemoglobin A1C test, for which if the test shows that the blood sugar level is 6.5% or higher, then they will diagnose you with type 1 diabetes, of course having to look into all other factors that might have predisposed you towards type 1 diabetes. And you can also be able to do other tests such as random blood sugar test and fasting blood sugar test, like we mentioned before on the previous video. And after you have been diagnosed by type 1 diabetes, after you have been diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, you will regularly visit your doctor to discuss diabetes management. And during these visits, the doctor will check your A1C levels, for which your target A1C goal may vary depend on your age and various other factors. But it is recommended that your A1C level is below 7%, which is also, an estimated 154 milligrams per deciliter. So now you might want to ask me, so how do I maintain diabetes in terms of nutrition? Is there any particular diet that I should be able to take? And which is the best way to go about all this? So one, I just want to put a disclaimer out there that there is no such thing as a diabetic diet. In any case, the dietary changes that you would be able to actually make are equivalent to any other dietary changes that any other person might be told to do. So one of the things that you want to do is ensure that you understand carbohydrate counting. And carbohydrate counting is simply knowing the number of carbohydrates that you're consuming in a day to ensure that your sugar level does not spike or does not go down at any one given point. And I will tackle carbohydrate counting on another video and ensure that you understand how carbohydrate counting should help you in ensuring that you are getting the exact amount of carbohydrates in your diet. So other things that you might want to do is to increase the amount of low fat, high fiber foods such as fruits and vegetables and even whole grains. Also eat fewer animal products and reduce the amount of refined carbohydrates such as white bread, white rice, and sweets. So this healthy eating plan is pretty much anything that could be recommended for people without diabetes. So the main goal is to ensure that your blood sugar level is as close to normal as possible to delay any other complications. And generally, the goal is to keep your daytime sugar levels between 80 and 130 milligrams per deciliter, and your afternoon after meal numbers rather no higher than 180 milligrams per deciliter at least 2 hours after eating. The other thing that you definitely want to do is, of course, increase your water intake. This ensures that you're well hydrated within the day and that your metabolism is up to task, and at least you're able to maintain the blood sugar at a normal range. You also wanna ensure that your physical activity is at least 150 minutes per week of any type of exercise that you actually enjoy, or you can do 75 minutes of aerobic exercise within the day to ensure that you meet your proper exercise levels. For children, it is estimated at least they can have a physical activity of about 1 hour, such that they are able to meet their goals in terms of maintaining their blood sugar levels. So it is also quite important that you ensure that you're taking insulin and frequently monitoring your blood sugar level at the same time while you are making the lifestyle changes. So this ensures that you're able to know if your insulin is higher, if you need to possibly reduce it to come down to a normal level, or if it is lower, you need to possibly eat something to be able to ensure that it is back to the normal level. Because every time your sugar level is low, then it would end up in such symptoms like sweating, shakiness, hunger, dizziness or lightheadedness, rapid or irregular heart rate, such things like fatigue, headaches, blurred vision, irritability are also quite very common. So if you forget everything, the proper attention that you need to take into consideration when maintaining diabetes from a nutrition perspective is to ensure that you are minimizing hypoglycemia and weight gain while achieving the correct glycemic control through carbohydrate counting, which ensures that you are eliminating the risk of developing complications such as neuropathy, nephropathy, retinopathy, coronary artery disease, and any other condition that might occur along the way. Now, there's a very common question that I usually get: how about the herbal supplements in the market that claim to help in diabetes maintenance? Well, it is very important for you to ensure that you're not falling into prey into such kind of supplements which might not have been diagnosed by your doctor. So most of these supplements do not necessarily cure diabetes, but they may help in loss of weight if at all you are diabetic and you need to lose some bit of weight. One such supplement I have seen is a porridge supplement in the market that helps in loss of weight for diabetics, and this flour that helps in your body's metabolic processes usually is sold by some companies, and they have a way of curating that flour to ensure that it is high in fiber and helps in your metabolism per se, but not as a cure to diabetes. I've heard of also other sample diabetic diets that are taken into as pills. Please ensure that you check with your doctor before you can diagnose yourself and start taking those funny, weird meals that have been prepared, and they are said to ensure that you actually get cured of diabetes. Remember, type 1 diabetes, or rather diabetes, does not necessarily have a cure. You need to ensure that you're maintaining it through the proper diet, proper lifestyle changes, the physical activity, taking insulin if you have to take the insulin for the type 1 diabetes, and also taking other drugs if you have type 2 diabetes that have been diagnosed by your doctor. So, I mean, it is quite crucial to ensure that you're also not falling into prey into thinking that, being diabetic means that you do not have to eat sugar. Ideally, with the diabetes, you will definitely come across foods that are high in sugar, but knowing how to maintain that is what is important. So ensure that you understand the glycemic index of each and every food that you're consuming, such that you do not necessarily have to wonder whether taking sugar is what is causing or aggravating your diabetes. So now, I hope that I have answered quite a number of questions that you might have in a nutshell. I know there are usually so many, but the one thing that I want to say here is that there is no way that you're going to start eating or consuming other different kinds of food that you might not have already been consuming. In any case, it's just a matter of reducing the amount or reducing the frequency of consumption in a way that you're able to manage your blood sugar levels at a normal range at every one given point. All right, so I do hope that this video has been helpful. Once again, thank you so much for subscribing, and thank you so much for your comments and the emails that you have been sending in. And until next time, please remember that you are what you eat, so do it right. So bye bye now.